Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going completely epic in scale. We're looking at the deeply fascinating, highly dynamic history of the Philippines. We are talking about a story that spans a staggering 60,000 years, characterized by these incredible waves of global influence washing over an archipelago of thousands of islands. Understanding this deep past is absolutely crucial to understanding the cultural crossroads of Southeast Asia today. Okay, let's dive into this.
Now, to make sense of this vast timeline, we're going to structure this explainer around 5 distinct waves of influence. So rather than just giving you a dry list of dates, we'll be exploring the early settlers and Asian empires, the beginning of the Islamic era, Spanish conquest and colonization, American rule and World War, and finally, the independent Philippine Republic. We'll see how each of these eras added a brand new thread to the cultural tapestry of the islands.
Starting with Wave 1, Early Settlers and Asian Empires. Tracing the roots of human settlement here takes us back an astonishing 60,000 years. That's when scholars believe the first humans arrived using very simple rafts or boats. As these early populations expanded, we see Austronesians, who were these incredible early seafaring peoples, and later speakers of Maleo-Polynesian languages arriving in successive waves, starting right around 4000 BC, and they brought with them a flourishing jade culture. By the time we hit 1000 BC, we're seeing early states form, and by 900 AD, they're leaving behind some seriously advanced written records.
Now, what's really interesting about this period is that long before unified state ever existed, the archipelago was incredibly diverse. Around 1000 BC, you essentially had 4 distinct kinds of societies. You had tribal groups, warrior societies, plutocracies, which basically means societies ruled by the wealthy, and bustling harbor civilizations. And it was these seafaring harbor societies that were completely instrumental in connecting the islands to a massive regional trade network. They were importing things like ear ornaments, glass, agate, and gold. They were trading heavily with the Indianized kingdoms in the Malay archipelago and nearby East Asian principalities, taking on major influences from both Buddhism and Hinduism. To really wrap our heads around the sophistication of these early societies, consider the Laguna copperplate inscription from 900 AD. This is the oldest Philippine document found so far, and it's written in Kawi, which is an ancient script used all across Southeast Asia. Think about it. It's essentially an official legal document clearing a debt for a man named Namawaran, issued by the ruler of Tondo. But more than just being a receipt, this document proves the early use of mathematics, precise weights and measures for gold, and even astronomy. It shows us for sure that the culture around Manila Bay at this time was a highly complex Hindu-Old Malay amalgamation, very similar to what was happening in Java and Sumatra. Moving right along to wave number 2, the Islamic era begins. Prior to the 14th century, a lot of these local city-states were heavily influenced by, or even part of, larger Asian empires, like the Hindu Majapahit Empire. But as that empire collapsed, it paved the way for something entirely new. In 1380, an Arab trader born in Johor named Makdum Karim arrived in Sulu from Malacca, and he brought Islam to the Philippines. This was a profound cultural turning point. Shortly after that, Sharif ul Hashim, an Arab Muslim explorer, established the Sultanate of Sulu by converting the previous Hindu ruler Raja Baginda to Islam and marrying his daughter.
This new religion didn't just appear and fade. It quickly grew deep, permanent roots. As those Majapahit provinces broke away, they formed their own independent sultanates. You had Muslim missionaries and traders from the Middle East, India, and Malay regions actively propagating the faith all across the region. Brunei seceded and literally imported the Arab emir, Sharif Ali, directly from Mecca to establish his own independent sultanate. Through a mix of diplomacy, trade, conquest, and the conversion of local leaders, Islam became a massive, defining force in regions like Sulu and Maguindanao.
So at this point, we have an archipelago completely divided into numerous semi-autonomous city-states, highland societies, and independent sultanates. The big question we have to ask ourselves now is, how did this incredibly diverse, segmented region eventually become a single unified nation? Well, the answer lies in a dramatically violent and transformative wave arriving from the west.
Which brings us to Wave 3, Spanish conquest and colonization.
The European era officially touched the archipelago in 1521. That's when the Portuguese-born Spanish explorer Ferdinand Magellan claimed the islands for the Spanish Empire, right before being killed in the Battle of Mactan against the local ruler Lapu-Lapu. But despite his death, the expeditions kept coming. In 1543, the islands were officially named the Philippines, in honor of Philip of Austria, who would later become Philip II of Spain.
Fast forward to 1565, and Spanish explorer Miguel López de Legazpi forms the first European settlements in Cebu. So the crucial point here is that through both diplomatic and military annexation, including taking over the Kingdom of Tondo, the Spanish established Manila as their capital. This created the very first unified political structure across the entire archipelago.
And this next event brilliantly illustrates the sheer global scale of this colonization. You've got to picture this. During the 1578 Castilian War, which was fought over control of the archipelago, the armies involved were shockingly diverse. On the Christian Spanish side, you had Native Americans, literally Aztecs, Mayans, and Incans, brought all the way over from across the Pacific, fighting alongside native Filipinos. And on the Muslim side, you had expeditionary forces set by the Ottoman Empire, comprising Turks, Egyptians, Swahilis, Somalis, and Malays. I mean, wow, this was a truly global clash of empires happening right on the shores of the Philippines.
Ultimately, that conflict ended in a status quo, but Spanish rule firmly took hold over much of the archipelago for the next 3 centuries. Their colonial rule brought about the widespread introduction of Christianity, complete with massive cathedrals and monasteries. Spanish and Mexican families settled there, creating powerful new communities. They implemented a European code of law and even established the oldest modern university in Asia. However, it's really vital to note that this period wasn't entirely smooth sailing. It was marked by frequent local revolts, mostly driven by the heavy-handed abuses of Spanish authorities.
This flows right into our fourth wave, American rule and World War.
So, centuries of Spanish dominance finally collapsed at the end of the 19th century following the American-Spanish War. Let's see how this builds, because what followed was a rapid, turbulent succession of massive political transitions. In 1898, the Philippines became a territory of the United States. The U.S. set up an insular government and promised eventual independence through the Jones Acts. By 1935, they established the Philippine Commonwealth as a 10-year interim step toward complete freedom. But as we know, this peaceful transition was violently interrupted in 1942 by the Japanese occupation during World War II. It wasn't until the U.S. liberated the islands in 1945 that the path to freedom finally resumed, leading up to the Treaty of Manila in 1946.
And that brings us to Wave 5, the independent Philippine Republic.
On July 4, 1946, exactly as scheduled, the United States ceded its sovereignty, and Manuel Roxas became the very first president of a newly sovereign, though still economically U.S.-dependent nation. The republic faced immediate massive challenges. Roxas died suddenly in 1948, and throughout the 1950s, the state engaged in conflict with and successfully defeated internal communist partisans. Then, a highly pivotal era began when Ferdinand Marcos took power in 1965. His rule eventually transitioned into a period governed under martial law, which was declared from 1972 to 1981. This entire era concluded in 1986, when Marcos was removed from power and replaced by Maria Corazon Aquino.
Those historic transitions of 1986 really set the stage for the contemporary democratic era. Since then, up to the present day, 5 other presidents have governed the Philippines. They've been navigating the incredible complexities of a rapidly developing modern nation, all while carrying the immense weight of this deeply layered history we've just walked through.
We've seen Austronesian migrations, Hindu and Buddhist maritime trade, the widespread adoption of Islam, global imperial clashes spanning from Aztec soldiers to Ottoman fleets, and turbulent transitions through American rule, all the way to a resilient, independent republic. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. After 60,000 years of profound, incredibly diverse global influences shaping its shores, what new waves will define the future identity of the Philippines? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you grasp the incredible depth of this nation's history. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.